Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online divorce mediation and valuation services in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we will discuss insight into dental market transactions with Maria Melone. Maria is a leading M&A advisor to the dental industry and an investment banker in Chicago, Illinois, with a mission to help both individual dentists and dental groups navigate the complex landscape of dental practice transactions. Maria is the managing director at Caber Hill Advisors, also located in Chicago, Illinois. Well, and I think to hit on a couple things that you talked about, which I thought were interesting, is that I would assume that a lot of doctors do this, which is instead of saying, oh, let's go sell the practice because I have this $2 million in revenue right now, they're just like, well, I'll just work 4 days. I'll just work 3 days. I mean, because I talk to a lot of them that is exactly where they're at in that process. And I didn't really think about it from that perspective, that now you have like you're doing it for your own life balance,
Right.
but it's literally dropping the price and it's just a choice, right?
Yeah.
And it will create the attrition, though, of those clients because eventually, and it could just be, I don't want to do those services anymore or something like that. But the other thing that I thought was really important was the new clients. So can you combat the fact that your total practice has declined if you can show that we have a constant, new clients, that maybe we turn away clients or maybe we don't take on certain clients? Like, is that even effective for a buyer?
It's really very difficult. Probably the only way you would get credit for something like that would be in some sort of earnout or deferred payment based on, the practice growing. And, as a buyer, or counseling a buyer in that scenario, I'd probably discourage them from doing that because it becomes very difficult to determine if it's something the buyer did to now bring in, some new patient flow, or is it truly something that the seller is doing, or the effects of something that the seller has been doing coming to fruition at some point in the future. So that's really a tough one, I think.
Well, and I think it's a huge takeaway for dentists.
Yeah.
Because that is what everybody kind of does, is start to transition and just, I'm going to run this forever.
Yeah.
And I wonder if some of the buyers actually kind of know that that's what's going to happen. And that's when they can get better deals or something like that, because they're just paying on 3 days worth of services as opposed to 5 days worth of services. So in some capacity, getting maybe another doctor, a younger doctor, staff, or more hygienist may be a better way to have more life balance than, and people don't, that thing seems more risky, right?
Right. I mean, there's definitely headaches that come along with those things as well. But I think the other interesting aspect of this is really when it comes down to the size of the practice. So going from a $2 million practice to a $1.4 million practice, you're still going to see a lot of interest for that size of a business. But when you talk about going from a $750,000 practice to a $500,000 practice, surprisingly, it becomes very difficult to find a buyer for that $500,000 practice. And the reason is kind of twofold with what we see going in the marketplace today. One is for the typical doctor coming out of school. I haven't checked super recently, but the last figure I had was that their educational debt alone was approaching $300,000 on average. And that doesn't include specialty. Specialty, they're probably well over 500, maybe even over 600,000 of debt when they come out of school. And so when you think of that, and you think about the fact that those candidates are also likely looking to do some life changes. So maybe they're getting married, maybe they're going to have a family, maybe they want to buy a house. not that they can't get access to capital, but sometimes that can be quite overwhelming to be that young and sitting on probably what would be well over $1 million of debt. Also related to that is definitely under $500,000 of collections, you're now getting into a situation where you're probably not going to be able to generate enough money to pay off any debt and still have a decent living. So that becomes very challenging to transition those practices to younger doctors or first-time owners. For group practices, they generally want to bring on and acquire successful, thriving businesses. That being said, there are some groups and some entrepreneurs that will take sort of the gamble of stepping into taking over those practices with the idea that they'll grow them to something that's a lot more attractive. But I would say more than not, most of these larger buyers are really looking for those practices that are already, doing very well and are very healthy.